Welcome to another group coaching session where I will cover what it means to create a lifestyle coaching business that matches both your income goals and the type of life you want to live. When I first got into coaching for me felt very ambiguous, right? First, I needed to know that I was a coach, and I didn't have the skills yet to discover it, which essentially meant I was able to gravitate to processes and teach them to people in a way for them to grasp and apply them effectively in their life to get an outcome. And when I started, that for me was the fun part, right? It was fun to help people and to grow people and to move them into new areas of life. What was challenging was to take that skill and to create a business, right? As someone who grew up with a mother who had me at 17 and a father who dropped out of school in the 10th grade, I never saw myself as a business owner. I never thought I'd be leading a business. And so to build a business felt very fun and felt very far. But as I've grown in this, what I've realized is that anybody can. If you learn the pillars of a coaching business in the midst of a lifestyle coaching program, you too can build something you love. All right. Let me just go through some of the things that we'll dispel today. We'll talk about the myth of lifestyle coaching, what's being promised versus what it costs. We'll talk about the work behind the model, why you churn clients, client care, and the delivery, right? That'll literally takes away your time. We'll talk about today the sales path, right? Or a call versus the chat. Why calls win every time, okay? We'll talk about how you create teams on your lifestyle, how to buy back your time. We'll talk about the brand prerequisite, why credibility and proof makes it easy makes it easy to make sales. We'll talk about the value lens, why the work is good, but your vision ultimately determines the scale. And the last thing we'll talk about is the decision point, how to choose your model and how to apply it in 30, 60, and 90 days. All right. If you guys are just joining us, my name is Coach BJ Thompson. And if you're new here, I want to start with a question. Have you ever seen those ads that promise that you can build a coaching business with no sales call, no team, and no work from anywhere while collecting recurring revenue? Sounds good, doesn't it? Here's the real truth, though. Any business that you have, whatever it is, a coaching business, whether it's a developed business, anything, will always take work. I want you to really think about this. There's no such thing as a business without busyness. The very nature of the word business means you will be busy, right? So to even open up the assumption that you're going to start a business without busyness is actually a misnomer, okay? What I don't mean by that is somehow you have to be overwhelmed. But what I do mean is that it's going to take effort, it's going to take you learning skills, and it's going to take you learning the things, the myths that keep us from truly growing in scale and in revenue, okay? By the end of the session, here's what you'll know. You'll know why lifestyle marketing looks simple but costs you more than you think. You'll learn how to fix the biggest hole in your recurring revenue, which is called churn, and when to use the sales calls and when to DM chat to close a client. You'll also learn why the secret to real lifestyle isn't avoiding team, it's building one. And lastly, how to decide in the next 90, 60 days how the model fits you. All right. Let me just kind of write something on the board. I want to share something with you all. All right. And let me just go to the board. You guys know I love this board. So on this board, if you join in with us and you want to know what board I use, some people use Canva. I am a Zoom guy. I love Zoom Whiteboard. It's one of my favorite boards. Zoom Whiteboard for me has been really key. You just go to your panel, you put in whiteboards, you can find Zoom Whiteboard, and it's going to, let me get my face centered. And it's going to show you just a blank board. All right, so let's do this. Let's talk about the myth versus the reality. All right. As you get into coaching and start or scale, whether you're at $0, $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month, $20,000, $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 a month, There is always someone promoting a coaching program around a lifestyle. Maybe they're promoting the freedom that they're able to go on vacation when they want. Maybe they're promoting the lifestyle where they're able to eat when they want to. Maybe they're promoting trinkets where they have a certain type of car or a certain type of income and it's consistent. And it literally seems like they're worry free. Okay. Lifestyle marketing sells the appearance of freedom, but it doesn't tell you the process to get there. Right? I want you to think about this. Okay. So when you sell the appearance of freedom, right? It's the house on sand versus the house on a rock. Okay. And here's what I mean when I say that. All right. As you build your business, in order to build a solid service, it's more than just being able to talk about what you do in a way that feels compelling. It's more than selling t-shirts. It's more than flashing that people are excited and that they're responding to you. What you will have to do is you will have to actually create a... Well, let me just put this up here. My phone is up. So what you will have to do is you will actually have to create processes and systems, right? So a lot of people will start with a promise for a client, but then they'll have no team, right? And then they'll have no real process to get the client, right? Then they'll have no calls where they're able to explain what they do and how they do it in a way that is compelling and people are excited to pay them for it. Or they won't have any monthly recurring revenue process. This is simply where you are able to not just have people buy one time, people to buy over and over and over for you again, because they don't just trust the outcome, they trust you as a person. Okay? In the reality of moving from the myth of simply flashing trinkets, talking really fast, trying to go viral at all times, the thing that's going to grow and scale your business is for you to implement an infrastructure that doesn't simply have big, grandiose promises. It has processes, right? Let me give you these processes, y'all. So the processes start with a process that has a team, right? A process for your marketing, a process for you to have calls on a regular basis, a process for tracking, a process for the monthly recurring revenue. You see this? As you grow in your business, now you're building something that is extremely sustainable. All right. Not only are you to build your house on rock and not on sand, one of the greatest issues, especially as you get into what's called the MRR, I'm going to explain what MRR is. Okay. So for those of you who are new to MRR, you'll just see this term in coaching all the time. MRR means monthly recurring revenue. All right. I'll explain what that means. All right. So in monthly recurring revenue, let's say a client comes in and they pay you one time. They buy your course. Because they're not buying just your course. They're actually paying for the outcome that you promised. Right. But that's just one sale. And you're going through the process. You're giving them their A to B transformation, and they are learning more and more how to implement that change or process into their everyday life. Well, as your clients come into your course or into your program, You don't want to focus simply on that one-time purchase. You want those clients to convert to becoming monthly partners who are following your process, okay? Here's the hard part about this, okay? Monthly recurring revenue, or MRR, has a thing called churn, all right? And churn means that some people are just going to fall off, right? Here's like a mini math, right? Let's say you have 100 clients times $300. That means you'll be making an MRR of $30K a month, all right? But the churn is going to be 10%, right? Which means that every month you're going to be missing $3,000 from that MRR, okay? And I want you to think of these numbers like this. The goal of your coaching program isn't simply to generate active income through bringing in new clients every single month, right? Who pay you $10, $20, $30, $50,000 a month and so on, right? That's not the ultimate goal. The goal is to develop your program in such a way that people trust you, you add consistent value, you help them scale in outcomes that they now would like to become monthly partners in your cohort. And because of it, now you have a separate income that now covers all of your liabilities, right? And makes you profitable whether you sell a course or not, right? But the challenge is, as you build this, there is a 10% fall off every single month. So that means you are going to have to figure out a way to create a completely automated and scaling amount of things, okay? So here's what happens. Here's what you have to do as it relates to churn. So how do you solve the churn problem? So a couple things you do to solve the churn problem. In order to solve this churn problem, it means that we need to scale by bringing in more clients faster, right? So a couple of things. We need an automated process for predictable sales, right? Because these predictable sales bring in predictable clients, we bring in a predictable outcome, right? But not only do you need that, you need a quality control process. One of the reasons why people don't stay in your network is because we will get them in a program and we won't fulfill our promise, or we're not checking on them, right? So coach, as you are developing your program, you want to develop a quality control. Is that a monthly, is that a weekly email? Is that a text message? Is that DMs? Find a way to create quality control, because by doing so, what ends up happening is people consistently are getting the outcomes, which then makes them lifelong partners with you, okay? And I'll give you the last thing that'll help you with churn. It's tracking, right? Is creating a process by which you track things. You are finding the consistency, but you got to know who's falling off. So what I would just encourage you to do is, as you go in every single week, you look at scales. You want to check to see during that month, what is the report? Where are we in terms of churn? And if you can figure out, pinpoint what it is that's either retaining or bringing in or filling in new clients, then it'll allow you to address the core issues, not the peripheral issues with your churn, okay? And so this pillar means you and I craft and create processes around our monthly recurring revenue that allow us to live a lifestyle with predictable income. I'll give you another pillar here. And let's talk a little bit about the sales path, y'all. Sales path says that calls went early, but a DM chat closes scale at the brand for a brand's credibility. Okay. Sales calls, right? I'll just give you the difference in what a sales call is versus the DM chat. Okay. So a DM chat can scale with your audience. I want you to think about this. As you run ads, as you run promotionals, as you run this thing, you're going to have endless conversations with folks, right? So your conversations are going to run the gamut of everybody. You're going to talk to people from different backgrounds. You're going to have videographers contacting you. You're going to have everyone contacting you. So you're going to have endless conversations in the DM, right? And this scales with the audience, right? Audience being, how much are you spending on paid media? Are you tweaking those ads to find your profile client? And are you targeting middle funnel where they send you a keyword where you can engage in a conversation more naturally, which is what we call an inbound conversation. The risk, though, with the sales call is you have a lot of conversations, but you risk misfit with clients, okay? So just think about it like casting a net into the sea. You want to go catch the fish. You cast the wide net in an area, but you don't just catch fish. You pick up a turtle. You pick up worms. You pick up anything in that area, okay? This is the downside of DM chats, right? That you spend a lot of time having conversations, but you risk having conversations with the wrong people, right? Versus sales calls, a sales call allows you to have conversation that leads to connection, that leads to a close. All right? I want you to think about it. The difference between you reading something that I typed versus even you joining this call right here is drastically different. You get to see my mannerism. You get to hear my tone. You get to hear my voice. You feel my energy exuding through. And in doing so, even without trying, I am building trust. I am building likability. And I'm building visibility with you, right? So as we think about the pathways, the thing I want you to do is action point. I want you to practice landing calls through the DM, right? So closing that call in the DM is the practice, right? And close as many qualified calls as possible. But I want you to treat your sales calls as if they have more weight and more value, because ultimately this is where you're able to actually grow your business, all right? And so the difference between a lifestyle is thinking that things are just going to happen versus intentionally doing it, all right? Let me do two more and then I'll close out for this evening, all right? So I'll give you another thing that should be dispelled in lifestyle. Remember, it's not just about the perception of how things look. This is what's happening behind the scenes in every good business, okay? Let's talk about, we'll talk about team, and then we'll talk about the decision point, all right? So every business grows like this. I'll just kind of give you this. So every time you create a business, the thing that creates your business is not simply you, it is your team, okay? And I'll kind of walk you through this. So when you first start, you're going to start solo, right? And, you know, this is where you do everything, okay? So you do everything in the business. And I'll tell you why I even encourage you to do it. So you do everything in the business. You wash the dishes, you mop the floors, you do everything, right? Let me just draw something so you guys can see this. Some people try to skip the process of doing everything because they feel like it is inefficient, right? But what I would argue is, before you go to build a team, you must take the time to learn every system, every process, and everything that happens in a business. Here's why I say that. At Chick-fil-A, if you're going to become an owner and an operator, the prerequisite is not just that you have the money and you can pay for the business, right? That's not the prerequisite. The prerequisite is, in order to be qualified to run the business, they make you clean the parking lot. They make you wipe the tables. They make you work the drive-thru. They make you learn how to make sandwiches. They make you learn how to put in an order for inventory every single week. Why? Because at every point, you are getting real-time experience on what happens in the business. And because you know what happens in the business from personal experience, if something breaks down, you have a comprehensive understanding on what's wrong and how to fix it. Okay? And I want to challenge you, if you are someone who likes to delegate early. This is myself, right? So I can just say this myself. One of my greatest strengths is gathering people, and one of my greatest weaknesses is delegation, right? So I'll struggle with delegation. And so one of the struggles that I have with delegation is sometimes I'll delegate way too early, right? So I want you to think about this. So let's just say Susie and Sally. So let's just say Susie and Sally are in these very, very critical pillars of your business, all right? And you say, go ahead and just take it over because I don't feel like I know what I'm doing and I need your help, right? Well, that's great, because now Susie and Sally are running these parts of your business and things are flowing smooth, okay? But let's just say Susie had a baby and Sally had to move on, okay? Now, because you never learned these critical parts of running your business, now you have a huge gap within your business that is being unattended to. It's called a bottleneck, right? And then you go and you say, I don't know what to do with this. Well, here's the thing. The person that's most responsible is not Susie and Sally, because they're not the owner. Who's the person that's most responsible? It's you. You are the most responsible person here. So because it's you, it's your problem to fix. But remember, it was too hard for you to do it initially, so you gave it away too early, okay? And so I want to warn those of us who always feel overwhelmed by certain tasks to go through the process and learn it. So that, let's give me one more scenario and I get into team. Let's say we got Mitch and Melvin in the business, and they're handling these very important parts of the business. And things begin to go wrong, or things begin to not go as they should in the business. Now, because you know the business inside out, guess what you're able to do? Give critical insight and problem solving to help Mitch and Melvin solve the problem. Or you can do an assessment on Mitch or Melvin, and maybe even assess, they're just not a good fit, but I know the type of person that fits there, right? So ultimately, because you have worked this entire thing, you know where it's broken and how to fix it, right? Okay. So when you start, you will do everything, right? But in order to scale, you cannot. So the few pieces that you add, and I'll just wrap up with this. So you will then add a setter. And a setter is someone who has conversations on your behalf. It's essentially someone who has chats, who sets a call for you in your DMs. You will then add a closer, right? As you grow in calls and you're taking sales calls and closing them into clients and then coaching them and then doing media, what you will get is you'll start getting so many sales calls that you will need to hire someone to take some of those calls. That's called a closer, right? And this closer is essentially somebody who can get on a call, talk with your vision of the business, your narrative, your story, your background, and close by looking and talking to any objections from the client, okay? My only caveat for those of us, once we get to a place where we hire a closer, is no matter what, I want to encourage you to stay 70-30. Here's what I mean. I don't care how big the business gets. I don't care if you get to $300,000 a month or $500,000 a month. You need to take at least 30% of those calls, right? And here's what I mean when I say that. As the owner, you want to always have a pulse on the business. You want to know who's coming in. You want to know what are the things that people are saying. And you want to see it for yourself so you never lose touch of the business unless you are selling it, okay? I'll give you these last two things that you're going to add. You're going to also add, as you grow and scale, you're going to add a quality control coach, or it's called a client success manager, right? It's a CSM. And so essentially a CSM is a quality control coach. They act in the business as a coach, coaching people along your process to ensure that they're moving towards the outcome. All right. Last part of this team that I would say you add is it can be someone who does your media or scripting, right? At a certain point, you're doing long form content once a week. You're doing ads, but you're always coming up with things. And we want to do this for this big reason. This is the big reason why we're adding team. It's not just to make income. It is to buy back my time. Y'all, the point of this is not just money. It's time. I need to get back my time so I can focus in on the things that's most important to me. Okay? I'll stop there because I think we've hit pretty much what I want to cover. Here's the truth. Lifestyle modeling isn't wrong. It's just incomplete. And most coaches don't talk about it in a way that gives you all the practical things you will need in order for you to be successful, right? But if you want to build a coaching business that truly gives you freedom, you need those 5 things. You need clarity, you need proof, you need smart sales, you need leverage through people, and you need a vision that's bigger than you, right? So which path do you need right now? Are you choosing to stay lean and premium? Or are you thinking about building a team that gives you your life back? Remember, this is about building a business that you love, not the one that you hate. All right? If that's you, drop the word grow in the chat. All right? If this helps you, do me a favor, subscribe, comment below which path you're choosing. And if you want to see the exact profitable model I use, how to stack recurring revenue, how to hire smart, how to keep high profit, go watch now, and I'll see you in the next one. All right. God bless you, and I cannot wait to see you in the next session.